Welcome back into Wake Up America. I'm Rob Finnerty. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about the massive numbers of child migrants coming into the United States at our southern border right now. She had a tough time coming up with an answer in today's Psaki Dodge.
I'm not going to confirm numbers from here. Obviously, the Department of Homeland Security and others oversee the programs and the engagements that happen at the border. I will say that there are a couple of reasons. I know Amr asked about our kind of change in policy, but there are a couple of reasons why we think people are coming to the border. We've been very clear that there is an increase, that there are more children coming across the border than we have facilities for at this point in time. Those numbers are tracked by the Department of Homeland Security, so I'm just suggesting that you talk to them about specifics.
Just to give you some numbers, there were 100,000 illegal crossings last month at our southern border. That is the most we've had there in over 15 years. Unbelievable what's happened over the last 49 days since Joe Biden took over on January 20th. I want to welcome back in our panel this morning. We start with our White House correspondent, Emerald Robinson, Executive Director of USA Strong, Aaron Elmore, back with us. Happy hump day to you. Project 21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps is here, and political analyst Mark Halpern. Chris, I want to start with you quickly. Your background, it changes every time we have you on. You are in St. Louis. I know that because I've been on your show out there. But is that like how do you do that? Is that like a screen?
You know, that's the wonders of green screen.
Really?
Ooh, that gave away my secret.
Yeah.
Show me the ways. Teach me. People make fun of my backgrounds all the time.
No,
Please
I like your
show me
background.
the way.
I like your. Well, Rachel, she just left the set a second ago.
Erin needs a pretty Florida background since she's in the sunny state of Florida.
I know. I agree.
All smoke and mirrors.
But Chris, Rachel said to me, she goes, really bright in St. Louis, isn't it? I go, they're like an hour behind us, I think. So I don't think it's that bright. By the way, and that's a Peloton bike.
No clouds ever.
No clouds ever. It's always sunny and 75.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
I need a palm tree.
You get the Peloton bike, Emerald Robinson. I like that. My wife's a big fan. Mark, your background's okay too, I guess. It's very astute.
Yeah,
It's very nice. You got to be quiet though, because the kiddos are asleep. All right, let's get us some stuff today. I want to play you a soundbite. Joe Biden and Emerald, maybe you can tell me what he was doing. I know he was at a hardware store because they're just trying to get the president out for the photo op. But just set this up for us. He was at some sort of DC hardware store yesterday, right?
Yeah, it's a local business. It's a small business. It's a hardware store that actually has two different urban gardens in it, which is really, really neat. This actually wasn't their first presidential visit either. So it's a popular little small business. So the idea was to talk about the changes that they're making to the Paycheck Protection Program to focus and make sure it goes more to small businesses and to promote that change. But it was sort of overshadowed by what I'm sure you're going to show.
Yeah, and I want you to pay attention if you're watching. Just take a look at it. This is an event where the press is invited, and they were asking some questions.
Group that traveled with him.
Exactly, it's a very small group of press people that are going with the president. Take a look at the video here.
Is there a crisis at the border, sir?
And then if I could just.
Let's go, you guys. Come on, press. We're gonna move out. Let's go, press. Come on, press. Let's go. Come on,
Is there a crisis at the border, sir?
let's go, you guys. Come on.
Mark, Rick Grinnell said that Susan Rice was, in fact, the Geppetto puppeteer president. She called Susan Rice President Rice just the other day and said that she is, in fact, running the show over at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. What do you think is going on there? Why are we not hearing from the president? That was a very simple question about the southern border, and the president seemed, and we're not poking fun, but we're asking the questions because we haven't heard from him. What do you think is going on there?
Well, first of all, I think it's testament to how big a deal this immigration story is that even the White House press corps, which is not normally inclined to be on the same page as Donald Trump, is asking many of the right questions about immigration. There are a lot of people with power at this White House. Susan Rice is one of them. Ron Klain is one, the vice president. Jill Biden, Mike Donilon. There are plenty of people there with power. Steve Ricchetti. The president's got a lot of power too, but one of his powers is not to be allowed to speak frequently and directly and at length to the American people, because they don't see that as a strength of their trying to sell their agenda.
This whole thing about, and Aaron, you touched on this, that he has a lisp, and that is Joe Biden. If you actually look into this story, it was more than, he's 78 years old. So this is like 72 years ago. That's when he beat his lisp. And if you look at Joe Biden, the senator, he was somebody that would, I mean, think about the Clarence Thomas hearings. You know, he's sitting up there next to Ted Kennedy, and he went on and on and on. And this was a very powerful voice in the Senate. There was never evidence of any lisp, and that excuse just rings hollow to me every time I hear it now.
I also thought it was a stutter, so I'm sure they're really grasping at straws here.
No, you're right. It was a stutter. It was a stutter.
Another barometer for his behavior, if you will, is look at his presidential debate, I believe debates in 2008. If you look at that man, compare with the man that we see today, and you can say that they are the same person, we have nothing further to discuss. Because he is not the same person. He is definitely cognitively slower and different. There's a certain look in his eyes now that is sort of vapid and vacant and empty that he didn't have in 2008. Listen, no one has ever said he's a brilliant man, but he was a very decent orator, okay? He could talk. He could make cogent points. Now he looks like he's confused and doesn't know which camera to look at. He doesn't know what he's doing. He even said that in Texas. What am I doing here? He doesn't know where to put his pen in his jacket and mutters. This is scary. And honestly, I just wish that maybe someone within the White House, someone in the inner circle would come out and say, okay, listen, we can't do this to our country anymore. This isn't right, because what's going on isn't right. No, I am not a doctor. No, I am not diagnosing him. But just as a lay person who is watching and has been watching for, I don't know, 20 years, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Well,
Emerald, go ahead.
Point, other countries are watching, right? We have adversaries who look for weakness in America. So this is a national security issue.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Chris, did you see he was talking about Lloyd Austin. I believe it was at the Oval Office, and he forgot the name of the Pentagon. He said that outfit over there, and the Pentagon is not like an obscure building in Washington. I think it's probably the third most famous building in Washington.
It's also a shape they teach you in kindergarten.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's a massive office building shaped like a Pentagon. And Lloyd Austin is the defense secretary that they made such a big deal when they nominated him to be defense secretary. And he's standing right there, and he was struggling. He couldn't come up with his name.
Yeah, Emerald made the point that I was going to make, that what are our enemies saying, seeing the president looking disorganized like that? It's becoming a national security issue. And, you know, that incident that happened in the Oval Office with the defense secretary, he said General Austin's name, you know, a few minutes before that. And then, you know, few minutes later, he can't remember his name. Right. I think that's the reason why we're hearing reports that Kamala Harris is the one that's making calls to foreign leaders instead of the president of the United States.
I want to switch topics and just ask you, Mark Halperin, about something and see if any of your reporting has led you in this direction. I had Congressman Devin Nunes on the show yesterday, and he basically said that, you know, the Democrats are vicious, especially when it comes to their own, and they've clearly turned on Andrew Cuomo, and they've turned to a large extent on Gavin Newsom as well. And he said that this might be an effort to sort of clear the runway for Kamala Harris in 2024.
I don't think that's a big, broad part of the party. Her camp would like to see that happen. But I think, in fact, I would argue the opposite. You know, you don't see any Democrat right now on the ballot saying they're going to get on the ballot as part of the recall process, which is required. Really, I think there'd be some chance that Gavin Newsom lose. And in New York, you know, you've seen some calls for Cuomo's resignation, but not mass calls, and not, for instance, the legislative leader's refusal to work with him on the budget, which I predict could still happen. But I would say Democrats are more circling the wagons around those two governors than abandoning them. Really?
Emerald, do you agree with that?
Well, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. I do think there's some sense that he could be a threat, or could have been a threat, to Kamala Harris in 2024. She's not very well liked. They've definitely, as the first female vice president, have tried to do a campaign to really push that and sensationalize and get, you know, some play off that. But you got to remember, she got 6% support when she was a primary candidate in the Democrat primaries in the 2020 presidential race.
Right.
So they do have to kind of clear the field for her.
Yeah, she couldn't even make it to New Hampshire.
She's got a long way to go. She's got a long way to go to be the favorite.
Well, she's got a long way to go, Mark, but I think that some of the concern is, you know, will we get to that point where she has to,
and she's Obama's,
you know, will we get to 2024? Joe Biden, Emerald, he's going to hold his first he's going to hold his first primetime address tomorrow night.
That's different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be totally different. No questions.
That's scripted.
Is this going to be is he going to do this live, or is this going to be a pre-taped event earlier in the day that then airs in prime time?
I'm not sure. I would think it would be live,
Right.
but he'll have the teleprompter. It'll be a concise speech.
Yeah.
Not extremely lengthy.
Maybe they'll tape a safety.
Yeah, I was going to say they
do
could
that.
just roll that in case something goes wrong. We'll talk about that again at the top of the hour. Great panel. Appreciate the conversation. We'll see you guys in just a little bit.